He's neither a communist nor a jihadist, but they're crying nonetheless, and their tears taste wonderful. It is a glorious sight. Mr. Bloomberg, Mr. Ackman, et al., your boy Cuomo took a hell of a beating. The hundreds of millions of dollars that you spent trying to meet a lad off the street, Zohran Mamdani, who started at 1% when he began his campaign, swept the boards last night. And Trump lost in New Jersey and Virginia also. In fact, he lost everywhere. Maybe he'll have to start keeping his election promises and stop prioritizing foreign countries like Israel and Ukraine if he's going to find a way back. But first, the big story. Zohran Mamdani. He's not a communist, that's for sure. He doesn't even call himself a socialist. He prefigures it. He qualifies it by calling himself a democratic socialist. That's so you don't think he's a communist. And although he's a Muslim, well, let's just say he's quite an unorthodox Muslim. He's no threat to anybody, as will quickly become apparent. The only problem is, if New York stays in the ramshackle state that it is, socialism and Muslims will get the blame. But that's for another day. Let's celebrate that it was a world historic defeat for the Israel lobby in their heartland. And 30%, almost 1/3 of New York Jews voted for the man that they called a jihadist. They called him Hamas, even though he's a Shiite Muslim. They called him Hezbollah. They called him every name under the sun. None of which, of course, he was. But the fact that they spent hundreds of millions telling people that he was all of these things, and still 30% of New York Jewish people voted for them. And I want to take my hat off especially to them. But he won every demographic other than Jewish Americans in New York. He won amongst black people. He won amongst white people. He won amongst Hispanic people. He won amongst Asian people. He even won amongst others, though I don't know who these others can possibly be. He won every demographic in the city and got 30% of New York's Jewish community also. It is a stunning and magnificent achievement. It is a stunning and magnificent reversal for all the worst people in the world. And they were all there. Every single one of them. Ackman, Bloomberg, all of these plutocrats, all of these oligarchs spent hundreds of millions of dollars to defeat a ragged-arsed guy of 33 off the streets of New York, who's only been an American for 8 short years. It is a stunning indication of how Israel has lost the world. Frankly, lads, if you've lost New York City, you've lost everything. You've lost everywhere. And you might, if you can, summon up a scintilla of introspection, ask yourself why. In fact, Trump's anti-Semitism czar on Twitter today asked the question, 30% of New York Jews voted for him? Why? Well, if you have to ask yourself that question, you've either been living in a cave or you only watch Fox TV. Here's why, Mr. Anti-Semitism czar. Because Israel committed a genocide of hundreds of thousands of people. Israel produced the largest cohort of amputated children that the world has ever seen. Israel behaved like, and Ben-Gvir almost personifies, Eichmann and all the other mass killers, torturers from the original Holocaust, the Holocaust of the Nazi period in Europe. If you didn't think that anybody would respond vigorously with all of their heart and with their vote to such scenes as we have watched over the last 2 years, then you really are living in a cave, literally or metaphorically. The truth is, the revulsion felt across the entire world was crystallized in the result in New York yesterday. But it isn't just Gaza. It's that Trump has broken every single promise that he made. Not just when he said he was the peace president, while sending his gunboats right now to Venezuela, threatening Mexico, redrawing the map and calling it the Gulf of America, threatening Denmark with the purloining of Greenland, threatening Canada with annexation, with invasion, threatening Panama, threatening Iran, and carrying out those threats. It's not just that the peace president is one of the most war-hungry presidents that we've had ever in the United States. It's not even just that. It's that the ordinary people in New York City and in New Jersey and in Virginia are struggling to make ends meet in the economy that you have bent in favor of the very billionaires and $1 trillionaire who are now clustered around you. They hated you, President Trump. They were never Trumpers. They called themselves that. They would have done anything to see you go to prison, and yet you are running the economy entirely for them. And in their foreign policy preoccupations, might call it obsessions, they have bent you to their will. If you don't quickly pick yourself up and return to the populist MAGA America First Donald Trump that won in 2016 and won in 2020 if they hadn't cheated you, you are a dead duck, a lame duck you will very soon be in the midterm elections when the Democrats, these cooks and crooks of the Blue Party, when they take back control of the House of Representatives, you will be a lame duck, but you might end up a dead duck, because one of the first things they are going to do is impeach you, and this time the Senate might not be able to stop them. And your plans of a dynasty, your plans of your children or your friends or your acolytes continuing your revolution that you said you were going to bring about, you can forget about them. It will be politics as usual. It'll be that goof in California, Newsom, who is the next president of the United States. Mamdani can't, of course, because he was born in Uganda, can't even run for president. And so you'll get a Newsom, maybe AOC, if you're lucky, vice presidential running mate, and it'll be business as usual. It'll be war throughout the world, but it will all be expressed in nicer terms. You won't get a President Newsom publicly threatening every hour to attack any country that somebody just briefed him on. Nigeria, it was last week. Venezuela, it is this week. You won't get a president who will be publicly threatening these places. He'll be talking about spreading democracy and human rights and gay rights. Slovakia is about to get its votes taken off it in the European Union. Why? Because their law insists that there are only two genders, male and female. Imagine, in the European Union, you're about to be cashiered. You'll be a member, but you will have no voting rights if you insist that men are men and women are women. You know, MAGA was supposed to change all this. This paradigm was supposed to be history. But it's back, President Trump, and the responsibility lies with you. The world situation continues to tremble on the edge of the abyss. The Iraqi Prime Minister took a call from little Marco Rubio this week, which left him shaken. He was told at the end of the conversation, "This is your final warning," like America ruled Iraq. But we don't know what the final warning was about. They said it was to make sure that the revolutionary forces in Iraq kept quiet when whatever it is that's about to happen in the Gulf actually happens. But we don't know what that something is. The Yemenis believe the US and Saudi Arabia and the Emirates are about to invade Yemen and about to bring about regime change. Good luck with that, lads. We fought the Yemenis once before ourselves, and they kicked our ass right out of the crater, right out of Aden, right out of Yemen. But it could be the big enchilada. Maybe Israel and the United States are planning an invasion or an attack on Iran of a very serious magnitude, in which case Iran will respond, Israel will be a smoking ruin, and we might well be on to World War III. Or maybe the Gulf is just a blind to what he's about to do in Venezuela, where hourly Russian and Chinese aeroplanes, quite voluminous aeroplanes, quite capacious aeroplanes, are arriving in Caracas with, one presumes, defensive weaponry and other logistical and material that is determined to defend Venezuela against your attack. And as I predicted to you, almost all of Latin America is responding. International brigades of Latin American people are flooding the borders of Venezuela. They might even come from farther afield than that. You might get North Korean soldiers in Venezuela. This will become, President Trump, a gigantic imbroglio in which you may very well sink. Or maybe it's Mexico, because he's threatening now to start bombing Mexico, a member of the NAFTA, your next door neighbor. You remember, the one you insulted by changing the title of the Gulf of Mexico. Who knows, it might be Denmark, it might be Greenland. This president is out of control. He's not controlled by a supine Congress, but he may very well find that in just 1 year's time, he is facing an extremely hostile, Democratic-controlled House, and then the skids will be under him. The Ukraine is still a situation where the Russian armed forces are carrying all before them, where 10,500 Ukrainian soldiers are trapped in a kessel, in a cauldron. There's no way out for them now. They'll have to surrender, but Zelensky will not let them surrender, just like Hitler and von Paulus before them in the kessel, in the cauldron at Stalingrad. We must pray that these soldiers do not stand and fight as Zelensky is demanding that they do, and that they take the humane course of surrendering. The last thing we need is another slaughter of Ukrainian soldiers in the kessel around the city of Pavlovsk. The truth is, the war, the tables have turned in the war. Trump clearly understands that, but the European Union leaders do not. The European Union leaders are now the biggest obstacle to peace in the world. They are the biggest threat of World War III in the world. They are working their puppets on the Baltic coast, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Finland, to mount ever more serious provocations, any one of which could lead to the outbreak of World War III. I gave you the name just the other night. Kaliningrad. Don't forget that name. It's a part of Russia. It's what you call an exclave. It is surrounded by hostile NATO member states. The Suwalki Gap is the tripwire where World War III might break out. The European Union is openly threatening to blockade hundreds of thousands of Russian citizens in Kaliningrad. And not just citizens, but tens of thousands of Russian armed forces, including Russian nuclear forces. Kaliningrad is a vital interest for Russia, as vital as Moscow, as vital as St. Petersburg. Russia will not allow its people and its assets there to be threatened by these yapping dogs who surround it. So never forget the word Kaliningrad. It might just be the last word on your lips, in your ears. Let's pray not. Now, I mentioned that in England it's Guy Fawkes Day. I never took to Guy Fawkes Day myself because, for obvious reasons, I had a great many sympathies with Sir Guy, who was threatening to blow up the British Parliament and almost did so. It wasn't a parliament then as we know it. It wasn't elected. It didn't represent the people. But it called itself the British Parliament, or rather the English Parliament, for Britain did not yet then exist. The English Parliament had unleashed a reign of terror, a real reign of terror. I'm talking about priests and nuns hanging from gibbets. I'm talking about Catholic priests and laity burned at the stake. I'm talking about Catholics going to mass in the trees, in the woods, in the forests. I'm talking about altars in caves. I'm talking about a veritable reign of terror. So if I'd been around on the 5th of November 1605, I probably would have sided with the conspirators, but I would have drawn a line at violence. I would have drawn a line at blowing up Parliament. After all, I sat in that Parliament across 5 decades. I fought for the British state. I fought for its independence. In the Brexit referendum, as earlier, I had fought for the unity of the United Kingdom. I fought for the unity of the United Kingdom, and I fought for Brexit because I believed that a truly independent Britain with the right leadership could be the answer. The democratic and, yes, socialist answer to Britain's travails, which are too well known for me to have to rehearse here. Suffice to say, Britain is going down the drain. The British state and its conduct in Gaza, its conduct in the Ukraine, is no longer worth defending. And I will defend it no further. It is the mother of all talk shows. Stay tuned.